Welcome, my name is Johanna Salgado Lopez, and today I'm making a presentation for the task number one of the subject Language and Culture, which is named Cultural Perspectives, a Comparative Analysis. My country of choosing was Australia, as I feel like it will be more interesting to analyze a country which is not as used as examples or mentioned as the other as the other largest in English speaking countries, which is USA and the United Kingdom. And I'm going to compare it with my own country and culture, which is Colombia. Countries and cultures introductions. The countries and cultures to be compared for today's task are the cultures of Australia, the most recognizable country of the continent of Oceania, and having English as its primary language, with a culture that drinks both from British influence and its own native traditions, and my own home country, which is Colombia, a South American country, which culture mostly with a culture mostly driven by Spanish colonialism, Christianism, and some aspects of native folklore and traditions. First, we'll be speaking about the traditions of each country. The barbecue, which is a spontaneous event that takes place in Australia, which is simply put is a event where someone brings out a drill or has a drill in their backyard and everyone of the neighborhood or known or friends of the drill owner or similars bring their own meat to be cooked alongside to be cooked, and it's a meeting in which they talk and simply hang out. Shouting rounds, which is an expression that means that someone shouts that they will be inviting a round of drinks in a bar or similar, and it's said rounds and not round because it's not only one who takes on the responsibility of the drinks. It's different people shouting one round. For example, I could shout one, my friend could shout the next one, the friend after him could shout the next one, so on and so forth. Bring your own meetings and gatherings. Similar to the barbecue, uh, bring your own meetings, picnics, lunches, and similar, where everyone brings their own things to share with the group. Let whether it is drinks, whether it is meals, sandwiches, etc., etc. Someone brings their own to share among all of them. First name greetings. First name greetings is simple, is what it says. In Australia, it's uncommon to refer to someone by as a prefix or similars, so they're mostly referred by their first name. Let's say someone outside of my family won't call my grandpa by Sir and their name, just their name. So now fourth, because Australia has many traditions, not only cultural but also social traditions that can't be fitted in this slide and in this presentation. Now, for the Colombian traditions, we have the convites. The convites is a sort of tradition mostly seen here in the countryside of Colombia, where someone either that is building a road to their house, is building their house or similar, does a convite. In a convite, anyone can come and work towards that goal, that building, that making, whatever it is that is being done. Anyone can come and do it, and in exchange they get a free lunch. That's why it's a that's why it's a compete and not a work per se, because there's no pay, but it's mostly a hangout event and a helping each other out event. Sancochadas de Río, las Sancochadas de Río are an event where a group of people, with whether family, friends, and others, go to take a swim on a river, on a lake or whatever, and they bring their own pots and such to make their own pots, their own meat, vegetables, and so on to make a sancocho. But a slight amount of sancocho to share among others. La vaca is another ring focused a tradition where someone takes off their hat if they have a hat or their cap and put it on the table, and everyone from the group puts money on it. And what is this money to? Used for? To buy the next round of drinks, or the next, or several other rounds of drinks. Bosses taking workers to vacations is what it sounds like. Mostly, once again, seen on the countryside of Colombia, there are bosses that, when Christmas rolls around, they take all of their workers, bring them to their farms, their houses, and have them drinking, eating, playing, whatever is available as a sort of thank you for working for them. Don or doña prefixes when reading someone. Unlike Australia, Colombia still clings to a very polite reading and behavioral system when it comes to talking. Unless it's someone close that you trust with saying your first name or something, or even uh, or even a nickname, you mostly read someone else by Don if it's a male and their name, or Doña if it's a female and their name. Though it though not as much seen with younger generations, it is something that it still links very close to how people talk in Colombia. Now about the values of each country. In Australia, there is the fair go value, which is, as it says, someone, whether accused of a crime or in a work or whatever, has always a fair go, a which is basically an opportunity to explain themselves, to work or whatever, based not on their background but rather on their behavior, uh, on their behavior at the moment, not linked to previous ideas or previous criminal records or behavioral records. Democratic principles. Australia is a very democratic country, which links to the idea that the law and such should be made by representatives of different groups and ways of living, not only to a head or by a head of government in particular, but rather various that will speak for various groups of people among the population. Mateship is a value that has deep root, deep roots in the history of Australia, which mm, which is basically in basic words that that Australians put very much of their trust and respect into their mates, their friends, their group of people that they trust, rather than being separated or doing everything on their own, or doing everything on their own, rather going to a close knit bond with bond. Multiculturalism. This one is simple to explain because of the native presence of Australia alongside the European roots of the population. There is a mix of beliefs, of values, of ways of living that makes it so Australia values very much their amount of multiculturalism that is in the country. Freedom and respect is fairly easy to explain. They value the freedom that their democratic system brings and respect oneself and each other. Now, talking about the Colombian values, Colombia is fairly family centric, with their with the groups, with the friend groups, with how most things work, being close knit to your family and your relatives. Not so much focus on making making groups of people outside of your home, but rather being closely knit to those who share your blood. Cultural identity and tradition. Fairly similar to Australia, Colombia also has a great deal of multiculturalism, this time of Spanish heritage, of native heritage, and of uh, African and other groups heritage. And as such, Colombia is fairly proud of showing off these traditions and identity. Politeness and etiquette. This is something that I didn't mention in Australian values just yet, but Colombia has but unlike that country, Colombia has a great deal of being polite and having a certain etiquette when addressing and interacting with others, changing the way you refer and speak to others depending of their age, their who they descend from, their ranks inside whatever context you're speaking about. As such, for example, if you cross paths with a boss of a work you work or worked on, is expected to be more polite and having more etiquette around them than having that same around others. And the same goes for people that are older than you. There is a certain politeness and etiquette that is expected of you. And the last one is relational value, which is fairly fairly similar to the mateship and the family-centric values of both countries. This in short words means that there is a deep value to the relations you make with others and with your own family. Now we move to the societal norms of each country. In Australia, there is various norms about social limitations, but the one I would like to speak about more is when you're invited to someone else's home for a party or simply because they want to hang out, it's usual that you bring something with you, either drinks, food, or whatever, something to show that you're grateful for being invited. Punctuality. Australia puts a great deal of attention to punctuality. It is expected, while they're more casual about their dreams and the way of speaking, it is expected that you're punctual with dates, with hangouts, and the like. Casual readings, as I mentioned in the past segment, Australia isn't as polite or has as much etiquette about greeting someone else. There isn't a set prefix or something that you need to follow. If you're among friends of just knowing someone, you it's most common that you will simply call them by their first name and nothing more. Sarcastic and dry humor. This is something that Australia has in difference to many countries. They use a dry, sometimes self-deprecating humor mixed with a great deal of sarcasm, which could make their jokes a little more harder to swallow if you're from a country where humor is most in the grounds of silly or playful. In and the Colombian norms of and the Colombian norms are family as foundation. As I mentioned before, Colombia has a deep uh, has a deep care for what is their family and uses it as the foundation of your whole persona. Colombia is also very group oriented, as I mentioned in the last segment. It has a, while not as closely knit with group, your group outside of your family as Australia, Colombia does have a great puts great importance in being group oriented. Once again, respect for hierarchy. Colombia has deep deep ways and in which you are expected to refer and to interact with someone from a higher spot in the hierarchy, depending on of what context you are. You are expected to be respectful, to be polite, and to have the etiquette around people like your elders if you're around your family, your bosses if you're in a work related environment, so on and so forth. Rumbero spirit. Colombian people are rather festive and playful and put a great deal on having and following a certain spirit in what is party. Not being they they put great deal in being able to dance, in being able to follow along in playful nature when in a party or event. Hospitality and warmth. This one makes could be strange to hear alongside the one to respect for hierarchy, but no. Even with all the buts and ins about that point, in reality, Colombia is quite hospitable and warm with newcomers, with friends of friends, and so on, despite the numerous rules and such that there is for interaction. And now we move on to the comparative of the two of things that we share and things that we don't share. Both countries are pretty rope-centric, while while Australia is very love-centric around your mates, your friends, and Colombia is very love-centric trope-centric about your family, but in the end are very centric about having a circle of people that you trust around you rather than living or doing things on your own. Food loving both countries are very food loving, as we just saw with the Barbie and bring your own and the encochadas or convites in Colombia. Both countries are similar in their love and their value of sharing, whether it's food, whether it's living, whether it is simply spaces. They are very much the value of sharing among each other is very much significant of both countries. Both countries also love to drink. In we saw this with the shouting rounds in Australia and the La Vaca in Colombia, with both countries having in a great interest and value in sharing and having drinks with each other. Both countries are also very multicultural because of their backgrounds. With Australia being multicultural because of British and European and native uh, background, while Colombia is very multicultural because of Spanish, also European, African, and native background. And the last similarity that we share is our warmth and closeness, that despite one or another having more etiquette or not, we are very warm and close to those who we already trust and open to uh, trust and accept others outside of our range. But now, moving on our difference, it's very obvious that Australia has a more casual way of interacting with each other, contrary to Colombia, which is very polite unless those who you're interacting with are already close and trusted to you. Other thing that I didn't mention but is very clashing about both countries is punctuality versus presence. In Australia, it's very much important that you're punctual with where are you going. If you're going to a party, you have to be punctual. If you're going to hang out, you have to be punctual. While in Colombia, this isn't as much required. Many times you can get to a party an hour and 2 hours after it has started because what Colombia values is being present. That despite whatever happened, you come and share with others. And the last one is hierarchy versus mateship. As I mentioned with Australia, mateship or loving and caring for those around you, whether they are or not friends, is very much important, which clashes with Colombia as they are more closed off and have put more importance towards the respect between ranks among contexts. In conclusion, while being countries with various hundreds of thousands of miles between each other and with cultures flowing with almost no contact, these two countries share various cultural points, traditions, and such, while at the same time being different enough to stand out. It's honestly quite impressive how both cultures have their ins and outs that will make them either clash or get along pretty well depending on who and what context they collide in. My name is Johanna Salgado and this was my presentation.